So there's a lot of taboo around the subject of sexuality. From a very young age, we are told about not to talk about sex, and our parents certainly, especially in the Asian culture, do not want to discuss sex with us or what sensuousness is. And really, we learn from books or we learn from our friends. And I want to understand, why is there so much shame around something that is really supposed to be such an important part of our lives?
Anything that is suppressed is going to find a way to emerge in a different way. I do gardening, so if I try to kind of suppress the roots from one side, they actually come out much further out, and they might transform into a plant which is not coming out in its full strength, but it would be different. And in many ways, I find that perhaps pornography or porn is a product of that suppression of sexuality, where one is not allowed to be. The whole notion of masculinity or femininity is just so imbibed in religion and tradition and cultures that actually it almost constructs a through line that if you don't follow that, then you're a deviant. And if that is the message that one is getting while one is growing up and exploring one's sexual energy and sexuality, then it is bound to get subversive. It will still come out somehow or the other, but it will subvert.
So a conservative environment will definitely impact your sexuality. I'm not sure whether I would necessarily say it inhibits it. What does happen is, imagine a conservative household, the very, very strict parents who won't let you sort of go out with somebody, who won't openly let you have boyfriends or girlfriends, and also small enough house where you can't even safely explore your sexuality in any other way. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will kill off all the feelings that you have. What generally happens is, it becomes like a pressure cooker situation, because it will build up inside you, but you have no way of expressing it, you have no way of releasing it. And this is what then turns to violence and aggression and brutality. So all of these really awful narratives of rape, of really horrible misogynistic behavior that comes out, or just really, really violent behavior related to sex, I think is also a result of ultra-conservative households or environments. I think that we all need to grow up with a certain level of control. I'm certainly not saying that we should be out there expressing ourselves wildly, crazily in public. Definitely there need to be some controls, but they need to be taught with a certain level of understanding as well. If you go too far to one extreme, you're just going to do more harm than good. And the other thing that I can never get people to understand is that just because you close off a door, just because you say, no, you can't be friends with that person because they have a bad influence on you, or you can't be friends with somebody who's gay because, you know, being with them, you might turn gay as well. It doesn't quite work like that. When you're growing up, certain things are natural inside you. You're going to feel a certain way. If it's closed down too much, if you're repressed too much, if it is all suppressed too much, it comes out in really bad ways instead.
Ali, I want to understand that as an artist, why did you decide to express your creativity by doing nudes? Is there a fine line when you're drawing nudes between nudity and pornography?
My art, I feel, is more leaning towards the sensual rather than the sexual. My intentions are not to titillate. I am guided by my feeling and my energy towards who I am drawing or photographing. And it is done with a view of really seeing the person in its holistic form. And then I choose to draw areas or the person, or whether it is the face or the body, in a way that fulfills the way I am seeing that particular moment. And by doing the nudes, you are exposing the vulnerability of the person for who they are, rather than dressing them up in things that for me become distracting, because everybody and every body is unique. It is absolutely beautiful. The moment we put the uniform of the garments and the clothes, it becomes a different dialogue altogether. So for me, it is, of course, it is very important that the person who is sitting in front of me, who I am drawing, is also consensually happy to be naked. Because I have found that in doing the drawings naked or the photographs naked, a lot of people have issues with their bodies, and when they see that they're being visible without judgment, there's a different strength that they gain from that. So not only am I getting the pleasure of drawing them, they're also getting a space where they can just be. These are names that we attribute to different things, but the way my heart and my mind seems to resolve this is that art is an expression of a person. Porn is created for consumption, and art can become porn if the intention of the artist is to create some kind of a, junk food or fast food, because porn is about consumption. Eat, see. You just kind of jerk off to porn for a quick release, rather than understanding that take it slow, try to see what is it that is being expressed. So one is much more focused towards one is focused towards the expression of self, which could be anything, whether it is a photographic piece of work, or a film, or a drawing, or a portrait, or whatever. The works can be very sexual and very sensuous in their core, but if it is designed with a view that, this is for titillation, then it becomes porn. The intention is on one side, and then of course the viewer is the one who also decides what is porn and what is art. So it's a distinct division in my mind.
See, guilt and shame are words that have been drummed into our psyche. They become part of our DNA. It's interesting to see where they come from. So 325 AD is the time that the first council of the Catholic Church is set up. And from the moment they set up, they start to tell us how sinful is the body, how bad is pleasure. It is the road to hell. It is the path to hell. By the time we get to 342 AD, they've passed their first law banning oral and anal sex, because sex is just supposed to be for procreation, and oral and anal sex have nothing to do with procreation, and it was just for pleasure. And so they actually passed their first law banning it, because this is supposed to be a bad, sinful, guilty thing. Interestingly, it is at exactly the same time, 300 something AD, when the Kama Sutra is being written across the oceans on the banks of the river Ganges. And the Kama Sutra is being written by a man called Vatsyayan, who's actually saying how good is the body, how divine is pleasure, and this is actually the path to heaven. So what has happened, interestingly, is that we've got the Kama Sutra at one point, which is talking about pleasure being a good thing. The Catholic Church at exactly the same point, talking about sexual pleasure being a bad and guilty thing. The world at some point gets trapped in this twilight zone between the fact that it's good and the fact that it's bad. But the message, obviously, that was carried forward was from the Catholic Church, that it was considered a bad thing. And unfortunately, that's the one that we all carry with us till today. Most of all, if I had to pick one thing to do, I would just change the words that we use. You know, we consider those body parts, our sexual organs are considered to be bad. They're considered to be dirty. We refer to them as dirty parts, as chi-chi. You know, our terminology is so bad that we start to stigmatize it even before the child has come to an understanding of what sexuality would be. So it's almost sort of fed into a child's DNA, into the psyche, that this is a bad part of your body. It's a dirty, unclean part of your body. It shouldn't be touched. It shouldn't be looked at. It shouldn't be explored. And so I think really it's the words that we have to start changing. We have to stop referring to our sexual organs or even types of intimacy as bad or sinful or dirty. And we have to start accepting certain things as part of life. You know, I always find it really strange, but we're always happy to talk to children, even very young children, about war. We'll talk about weapons of war, about killing, about gruesome murders, but we won't talk to them about loving. So yeah, I think it's the vocabulary that needs to change.
Why sexuality comes with such a big baggage of shame, but it does. It is apparent in the fact that I am sitting still wearing clothes in front of this, because I don't know that if I was sitting naked, I don't know if you'd be able to put the vlog or not. But right from the beginning, we are wrapped into something which denies the openness of the body, and there is shame associated with it, even though we kind of allow the children to roam around naked, but we cover them up in diapers. Or you'd see that people would wear underwear but still be outside. So there's like a limit and a limit that is devised by the society. And from a very early age, you know, we are told, oh, don't play with your nunu, or don't play with your vagina, or don't touch somebody there. And it's almost like, why are these norms being created as the distinct norms that if you do this, it's okay. If you don't do this, it's shameful. I wonder why, because why is it that from a very early age we are not given the lesson of what consent means? Because if you're doing something consensually, then there will be no concept of shame. And I really think the world would be a much better world if there is more conversation about what consent means. Because consent is about giving and receiving. It is about taking and allowing. So the parties need to be in consent with each other, in agreement with each other, to do what they have to do, and then there'll be less shame.
It was very interesting to get the perspective of an artist and a healer, and also get this same perspective from a person who is a big authority on sexual pleasure and on sexuality, really. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. After I conducted the interview, I realized that most of the material that we discussed was so important that I could not edit any of that out. So I decided that I'm going to actually make 2 vlogs, and it'll be a part 1 and a part 2. I hope you guys stay tuned for both the parts, because I think it's going to be an extremely interesting vlog. I must tell you, this has been a learning curve for me. I, to be honest, did not understand sexuality. I thought I did, but when I heard this vlog, I realized I didn't. And it was a learning curve for me. It was fascinating. It was fascinating getting their feedback, and it was fascinating that there is such knowledge available, and sometimes we get so wrapped up in life and in our day-to-day life and in just how life envelops us that we sometimes don't ignore certain parts of our inner self. And our sexuality, I have discovered and learned, is such a big part of who we are, and it can bring us so much joy. And hearing Seema's interview has really widened my horizons, and getting Ali's perspective has really made me understand that this topic is really wide, and I don't know if this vlog has done it justice. I really, we should have made a documentary on it, and I feel we could have asked more questions. I feel we could have dwelled into more details, but since I have limited time available on the vlog, I did my best. I hope it can impact your life or improve your life, or at least make you understand better. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this vlog.